Listen, when the Galactic Council called an emergency assembly and told humanity that we'd been selected for the ultimate survival simulator, I should have seen it coming. Should have noticed the way Coordinator Vexthor kept glancing at the emergency exit, like he was mentally calculating how fast his crystalline exoskeleton could carry him to safety. Should have picked up on the nervous chittering from the Krell delegation, or the way Ambassador Zindra from the Centauri Alliance suddenly found her beverage absolutely fascinating. But I didn't. I was too busy thinking about the free sandwiches in the council chamber. That's human nature, really. Give us snacks and a fancy government building and suddenly we're ready to agree to literally anything. The simulator was supposed to be impossible. Not hypothetically impossible, not unlikely, but actually genuinely impossible. Every single species that had ever attempted it was dead. Well, not dead exactly. More like ceased to exist as viable participants after roughly 3 minutes. The Valorian Empire sent their elite warrior caste. Lasted 247 seconds before the simulator decided they should meet their maker. The Xylophon Collective, a hive mind that had conquered 17 star systems, managed 2 minutes and 13 seconds before experiencing what I can only describe as a cosmic existential crisis. The Thurians, who literally eat radiation for breakfast, made it 3 minutes and 4 seconds. Then came the really embarrassing part. The Phloxian race, who are basically living supercomputers, managed a respectable 308 seconds before the simulator informed them that they were, quote, an adorable attempt at biology. Naturally, the council decided humanity should give it a try. I'm Marcus Rivera, by the way. 34, Earthborn, worked as a systems engineer for the Terran Defense Corps before the first alien contact made that job weirdly redundant. I've got a face that looks like it's permanently asking a sarcastic question, a sense of humor that my therapist once described as a defense mechanism masking deeper anxiety, and an inexplicable talent for fixing things that really shouldn't be fixable. Apparently that made me the best candidate for near-certain death. When they briefed me on the simulator, I laughed. Legitimate, full-body laugh, the kind that made Coordinator Vexthor's eye stalks retract in genuine concern. The simulator, they explained, was created by the Architect Collective, a species so advanced that they make the rest of galactic civilization look like it's still figuring out fire. The simulator was a test. Not of combat ability or intellectual prowess or even raw survival instinct. It was a test of something the architects called adaptive improvisational persistence under catastrophic circumstances. In other words, it was an obstacle course designed to kill everything that wasn't fast enough, smart enough, or lucky enough to survive it. Nobody had been all three. So what you're telling me, I said to the council, is that I'm about to walk into a death machine that has a perfect 100% fatality rate, and the best outcome is that I die in a slightly more interesting way than the last 17 species. Well, Vexthor said carefully, statistically speaking, yes. Absolutely, I said, stealing another sandwich. When do I start? The Krell delegation actually gasped. I think I heard Zindra mutter something about humanity's apparent death wish being either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, and she wasn't sure which. I was pretty sure it was both. Still is. The point is, nobody expected me to succeed. Nobody expected a human to even make it past the first obstacle. The council was probably already preparing the eulogy, figuring out which galaxy to blame when they had to explain to Earth's government that their representative had been turned into cosmic dust by an ancient alien machine. Spoiler alert, I survived. Twice. Before lunch. The simulator was located in what the architects called the calibration chamber, which is a fancy way of saying it was a pocket dimension roughly the size of a football stadium that existed in 17-dimensional spaces simultaneously. I try not to think too hard about that part. My brain is already weird enough without adding multi-dimensional topology to the mix. I stepped through the entrance portal, and immediately the chamber got very real, very dramatic, and very determined to murder me. Welcome, biological entity, a voice boomed across the space. Not a real voice, obviously. More like the concept of sound forcibly injected into my consciousness by the chamber's artificial intelligence. Very aggressive welcome, honestly. You have entered the ultimate survival simulator. Current record time for any species. 3 minutes and 4 seconds, held by the Thurian Collective. Your species' average survival time, unknown, as your race has not previously been tested. Wow, bold assumption that I'm the average, I said, looking around at what was, frankly, the most unnecessarily complicated obstacle course I'd ever seen. Spinning blades, check. Acid pits, obviously. Platforms that looked like they were held together by pure spite, and one really desperate bolt that was having a serious regret about its career choices. There were gaps that looked designed specifically to create maximum anxiety. There were falling objects, there were rising objects. There were objects that were just vibing menacingly in corners, like they hadn't decided what they wanted to be yet. The challenge has begun, the AI announced. Time remaining until catastrophic failure, indeterminate. Cool, I said, already jogging toward what looked like the first obstacle. Really building suspense with that one. Very mysterious. I love not knowing when I'm about to die. Really keeps things interesting. I'm not going to bore you with the boring details. The first obstacle was a series of spinning blades in a narrow corridor. Normally, you'd have to time your movements perfectly, moving in sync with the blade rotations. I noticed the blade pivot points had a 3-inch gap on either side due to manufacturing tolerances. I went sideways, straight through. The AI sounded almost offended when it said, "That was inefficient." "Yeah, but it worked," I replied, already sprinting toward obstacle number 2. The next section was the acid pit. Now the Thurians had tried to jump it. The Valorians had tried to punch through it. The Xylophon had tried to calculate a molecular dispersion pattern. Me? I found a pipe, looked for an alternate route, found a vent shaft that led around the whole thing. Took me maybe 40 seconds. "You are disregarding the intended obstacle," the AI observed. "Yeah, because it was stupid," I said, pulling myself up through the vent. Whoever designed this thing probably should have considered that not every creature has the same stupid body type. Maybe put in a lock or something, just a thought. I kept moving, jumping platforms that crumbled beneath my feet. I used the fallen pieces as extra stepping stones, laser grids that were supposed to mince me into molecular components. I found the reflective surface someone had probably left as an Easter egg and bounced them back at the emitters. Narrow bridges over bottomless pits. I lay on my stomach and army crawled across them, which took longer, but meant I wasn't falling to my death because I had a momentary balance issue. And the entire time, I'm talking. "Okay, so clearly the Valorians didn't read the instruction manual," I said during one particularly precarious section. "I mean, just look at this setup. It's obviously a puzzle, not a strength test. See how the floor panels are different colors? You're supposed to step on the blue ones, not literally smash through everything like you're the Hulk's angrier cousin." The AI didn't respond to my commentary. I think it was processing, or maybe sulking. It's hard to tell with artificial intelligences sometimes. By the time I reached the final section, I'd already beaten half of the previous record. 20 minutes in, and I was feeling good, feeling confident, feeling like maybe all those years of fixing broken spaceship components by essentially yelling at them until they worked again had prepared me for this in ways the simulator's designers had never anticipated. The final obstacle was a massive chamber with moving platforms suspended over an abyss. Very dramatic, very theatrical, absolutely designed to make you panic and make a mistake. I took a breath, calculated the angles, found the optimal path, and started moving. 42 seconds remaining, the AI said as I reached the final platform. Then it added something that sounded like surprise. Survival parameters achieved. I didn't even break a sweat. After I finished the first run in a record-shattering 15 minutes and 34 seconds, the AI had that particular tone you get when your expectations have been catastrophically, violently murdered, and you're trying to be professional about it. "Biological entity has completed the gauntlet," it said, and I swear I heard a digital sigh in there somewhere. Time, recorded, 15 minutes, 34 seconds. Efficiency rating, unprecedented. The council was absolutely losing it when I walked back through the portal. Vexthor actually made a sound like he was malfunctioning. Zindra had her hands over her mouth. One of the Krill delegates might have actually tried to flee and been stopped by security. "How?" was the only thing Coordinator Vexthor could manage. Eloquent. Really captures the moment. I mean, I said, peeling off the simulator gear and trying not to look too pleased with myself, even though I was absolutely pleased with myself. You guys were all treating it like it was this impossible thing. And yeah, okay, impossible for you. But have you considered that humans are kind of naturally equipped to be ridiculous problem solvers? What do you mean? Zindra asked. And bless her, she actually sounded genuinely curious instead of horrified. Look, I said, grabbing another sandwich because apparently I'm a sandwich guy in crisis situations. Humans come from Earth. Do you know what Earth is? It's a planet that actively wants us dead. Seriously. We've got earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanoes, diseases, parasites, and sharks. Sharks just exist to be terrifying for no reason. Our planet is basically a simulator, except it's been running for 4 billion years, and everything in it is personally motivated to kill us. How is that relevant? One of the Centauri asked. It's relevant because we learned to improvise, I said. We learned to see a problem and go, well, that's stupid. Let me fix it with whatever I have lying around. You're elite warriors, the Valorians. They're trained to be strong. They don't know how to be creative, the xylophone. They calculate everything. They don't know how to just go screw it and try something random. But humans? We're basically made of screw it and random solutions held together with duct tape and spite. You do not have duct tape in the simulator, the AI interjected. No, I agreed. But I found something equivalent. It's all the same principle, really. What I didn't mention was that I'd also broken 3 official protocols, used a plasma conduit in a way it was definitely not designed to be used, and discovered that the simulator had what I can only describe as a sense of humor. When I joked about one particularly stupidly designed bridge, the obstacle had reconfigured itself to give me an easier path. I think even ancient, incomprehensible alien machines appreciate a good comedic observation about poor design choices. The Council decided that, before they officially recognized humanity as having completed the test, they wanted to run it again, just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. They made it sound very scientific, very official. In reality, they were hoping I'd die the second time, so they wouldn't have to actually acknowledge that a human had somehow succeeded where everything else had failed. I volunteered immediately. You are eager for a second attempt? The AI asked, sounding like it was trying to process whether humans were just naturally insane or if it was just me. Oh, I'm not eager, I said. I'm just bored. And I realized what I did wrong the first time. If I optimize my route, I bet I can cut the time in half. The Council absolutely did not want me to do that. Here's the thing about successfully completing an impossible task. Nobody knows what to do with you afterward. It's not like there's a handbook for this situation. It's not like there's a greeting card that says, "Congratulations on not dying when everyone expected you to perish horribly." The Galactic Council basically short-circuited trying to figure out their next move. Coordinator Vexthor called for a mandatory celebration protocol, which is apparently what happens when something so shocking occurs that the bureaucratic apparatus of galactic civilization just defaults to party now, consequences later. There were refreshments. There were speeches. There was a very awkward moment when Ambassador Zindra tried to explain to the Krell delegation how a biological species with an average brain weight of only 1,400 grams had managed to accomplish something that their collective computational network of 7 billion quantum processors couldn't figure out. Someone actually suggested that maybe I'd somehow rigged the simulator. You could see the immediate panic across the room as they tried to figure out if that was even possible. The AI had to step in and confirm that no, there was no possible way a human could have altered the fundamental parameters of an ancient architect device. I was just that good, or that stubborn, probably both. On behalf of the Galactic Council, Vexthor said, managing to regain his composure, I would like to officially commend the human species for this unprecedented achievement. Humanity is now recognized as having completed the ultimate survival simulator, a feat previously thought impossible. Everyone applauded. Very professional, very official. Very much the kind of thing that happened when people were genuinely terrified and trying not to show it. However, Vexthor continued, and I could see where this was going. Given that the completion could potentially be an anomaly, The Council would request that the challenge be repeated to establish a consistent baseline for human species survival ratings. Oh, they wanted me to do it again. They totally wanted me to do it again. They were just being polite about the fact that they were basically asking me to prove that I was not a statistical impossibility. I was already raising my hand. "I'll do it again," I said, before anyone could even finish the sentence, and this time, I'm going to do it faster. The room went quiet, like genuinely quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear the ambient hum of the space station's environmental systems. "You volunteer for a second attempt?" Zindra asked slowly, like she was trying to make sure I understood what I was saying. "Absolutely," I said. "Look, I made some inefficient moves the first time. I didn't understand the logic of the design. Now I do. First run, I was feeling my way through like I was reading a book I'd never seen before. Second run, I'm going in knowing exactly what the chapters are. I'm going to optimize the hell out of this thing." "The human demonstrates remarkable confidence," one of the technical advisors observed. "The human demonstrates remarkable stupidity," Vexthor muttered, but I heard the resignation in his voice. He knew exactly what was about to happen, and he was already starting to accept his new reality. That humanity was going to be inexplicably good at the things everyone else found impossible. The Council scheduled me for a second run immediately. Probably figured there was no point delaying the inevitable. The entire Galactic Assembly turned up to watch. Word had apparently gotten out that the weird human species had done the impossible thing. And apparently every species in the galaxy wanted to see if it happened twice. I stripped down, got into the simulator gear, took a deep breath, and walked through that portal like I owned the place. "Welcome back, biological entity," the AI said, and I swear it sounded almost amused. "Hey there," I replied, cracking my knuckles. "Let's do this faster." The chamber didn't know what it was about to experience. The second run was beautiful, not because it was easy, but because I'd already solved the puzzle. I knew exactly where the inefficiencies were. I knew exactly where the simulator was expecting you to fail. And more importantly, I knew how a human brain approaches problems differently than every other species in the galaxy. See, the Valorians would charge straight at an obstacle. The Xylophon would try to calculate the absolute optimal path. The Thurians would use brute force. But humans are weird. We see a problem and we don't just think about solving it. We think about the ways we could break it. We think about what the designer did wrong. We think about our tools and what they could do if we used them in the wrong way. "Starting second attempt," the AI announced. "Previous record, 15 minutes 34 seconds. I have recalibrated difficulty parameters to account for your anomalous performance on first attempt." "Oh, you added more obstacles?" I asked, already moving through the first challenge at full sprint. "Affirmative." Cool, I said, sliding under what was now a double row of spinning blades instead of a single row. "See, here's the thing, though. More obstacles doesn't make it harder for humans. It just gives us more stuff to work with." I was narrating the entire thing, live commentary style. I think I was actually streaming my consciousness to the Council through some kind of quantum-locked observation system, because I could feel them watching, could feel the weight of their attention. It was like having the world's most high-stakes audience. The first major challenge, the Blade Corridor, took me 3 seconds. The acid pit that I'd spent 40 seconds working around the first time. 12 seconds. I'd found a way to swing from one overhead pipe to another, moving across the pit like some kind of deranged circus performer. "Your methodology is unconventional," the AI observed. "Your design is predictable," I replied. "See, everything here was built by aliens trying to create a challenge for other aliens. You've all got certain expectations about how bodies move, what people can do. But humans, we're small, we're flexible, we're weirdly good at breaking our own bodies in creative ways. I've dislocated my shoulder twice. Did you know you can actually unhinge your shoulder on purpose if you're flexible enough? It's extremely unpleasant, and I don't recommend it. But the point is, humans are weird. By the time I hit the middle section, I'd already cut the time down to 6 minutes. The Council was probably experiencing some kind of collective existential crisis by now, but honestly, that was starting to become their baseline emotional state whenever I did anything. The new obstacles that the AI had added were actually kind of impressive. electromagnetic fields that would disrupt neural function, pressure differentials that would crush most biological matter, temperature fluctuations designed to cause rapid cellular breakdown. The AI was pulling out the heavy artillery, and I was treating it like a video game. Okay, so the electromagnetic field disrupts neural function, I said, running toward it at full speed. But it doesn't affect skeletal systems. So if I can move fast enough and quiet my brain, I can basically shut down higher cognition and just run on instinct. Humans are great at turning our brains off, by the way. We do it all the time. It's called not thinking about embarrassing things, and I've had a lot of practice. I powered through the field in 5 seconds, my consciousness basically offline, just pure physical momentum carrying me forward. I could feel my neurons misfiring, could sense the weird scrambled eggs feeling of my brain essentially short-circuiting, but I was through before it could do any real damage. That was harmful to your biological structure, the AI said, and I think it was expressing concern. Yeah, probably, I agreed, shaking my head to clear the vertigo. But I'm still alive, which is more than 17 other species can say, so I'm going to call that a win. The pressure differential, I found a way to align my body with the pressure gradients so they cancelled each other out. It took some creative geometry and a complete disregard for how anatomy is supposed to work, but it worked. The temperature fluctuations. I used the thermal energy itself as propulsion, essentially surfing the temperature gradient like it was a wave. By the time I reached the final chamber, the one with the moving platforms over the abyss, I'd completed the gauntlet in 7 minutes and 43 seconds. Survival parameters achieved, the AI announced. Time recorded, 7 minutes, 43 seconds. Efficiency rating, 203% over baseline. Biological entity has exceeded theoretical maximum performance parameters. See? I said, genuinely out of breath, walking across the final platform like I owned it. You just have to believe in yourself and be willing to do mildly insane things. Works every time. I could practically feel the Council's collective brain exploding. When I came back through the portal the second time, something in the chamber had fundamentally shifted. The Galactic Council wasn't just accepting my success anymore. They were terrified of it, not of me, specifically. More terrified of what my success meant for their entire understanding of biological capability. Coordinator Vex Thor looked like someone had informed him that gravity was now optional, and he was responsible for explaining it to the population. The human has completed the simulator twice, Zindra said slowly, like she was trying to work through the implications. In your second attempt, you were faster than your first, with additional obstacles, designed specifically to counter your previous strategy. Yeah, I said, still catching my breath, because you guys keep thinking like engineers. You think, if we add more obstacles, it's harder. But that's not how humans think. We think more obstacles means more tools to work with. Every barrier is just an opportunity to figure out something new. This is unprecedented, one of the technical advisors muttered. Humanity should not possess this capability. Yeah, well, I said. Nobody told humanity that. See, that's the thing about my species. We don't spend a lot of time acknowledging that something's supposed to be impossible. We just kind of stubbornly push forward like the laws of probability are a personal insult. It's probably because we spent so long evolving on a planet that was actively trying to murder us that giving up stopped being an option at the genetic level. What you are describing, Vex Thor said carefully, is adaptive stubbornness, combined with creative problem-solving under extreme duress. I'm describing humans being weirdly, aggressively not giving up, I said. That's our whole thing. We survive by being too stubborn to fail, and too weird to predict. My species spent millennia convinced that we could fly despite having no wings, and you know what? We figured it out. Not through evolution, through spite and engineering. That's humanity, baby. The council spent the next hour discussing the implications. By the time they'd finished, they'd officially declared humanity as a species with unprecedented adaptive capacity and formally invited Earth into the Galactic Defense Initiative at the highest level. We got seats on various committees. We got resources. We got recognition. And apparently species started requesting human consultants for their own problems. 3 days later, I was being approached by Vex Thor with a curious expression on his crystalline face. "The Valorian Empire has requested human assistance with their defensive protocols," he said. "The Xylophon Collective has inquired about humans joining their research division. The Thurians want to know if we could help them develop new power sources. It appears your success in the simulator has created unprecedented interest in human cognitive patterns." "Of course it has," I said. "Because we're basically the universe's chaos agents. We show up, break your assumptions, and leave you wondering how we survived long enough to develop space travel." "There is one more matter," Vex Thor added carefully. "The Architect Collective has sent a transmission regarding what they are calling the ultimate survival simulator. It is apparently even more impossible than the previous version. They were wondering if humanity would be interested in attempting it." I should have said no. I should have recognized that this was exactly the kind of decision that got entire species wiped off the galactic census. I should have thought about the long-term consequences of humanity developing a reputation as the species that would do literally anything no matter how stupid it was. Instead, I grinned. "When does it start?" I asked. Zindra, who was passing by and overheard me, actually face-palmed. "You are aware that even the architects do not know if anyone could survive it?" "Great," I said. "Gives me something to aim for. Plus, I've got nothing going on this afternoon." "Humanity will eventually get itself killed through its own stubbornness," she said, but she was almost smiling. "Probably," I agreed. "But not today, and that's what matters." As I walked out of the council chamber toward my shuttle, I couldn't help but think that humanity's first real contribution to galactic civilization was going to be proving that sometimes the difference between impossible and just really, really difficult is whether or not you're too stubborn to read the instruction manual. The universe was either going to love us or hate us, honestly. I was betting on both.